Hi everyone, welcome to Dear BAMf, the show for PR and marketing pros like you, hosted by Beck Bamberger of BAM. BAM is a communications agency that believes stories move the world. We move stories forward for technology-driven brands that challenge, change, and create entire industries. Today, on the Dear BAMf podcast, we're talking with Tamara Alesi, Sector Head of Agencies and Media at YouGov. She has experience in proven omni-channel marketing and media with 20 plus years of diverse expertise. She has a record of driving business results and keeping problems solved, and prides herself in understanding today's fluid marketplace. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everybody. This is Dear BAMf, the podcast for advice if you're in PR or marketing or dealing anything with comms in this absurd world we live in. We cover questions that are real life advice questions that people submit to us. It's super fun. And for everyone's knowledge, I'm Beck Bamberger. I run an agency called BAM, which represents all venture-backed growing startups, and then also One Pitch, which is a platform to help publicists get way more efficient media lists and media contacts to help with their pitching and so forth. And today, live from New York City, I'm so jealous, is Tam Alesi. She's the the sector head of agencies and media for the Americas over at YouGov, which we're going to talk all about. Tam, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You told me you went to a lunch in person. How fun. How magical sounding.
You know, I think the best part of our business and what we do is relationships. And it's obviously be something that's taken a big hit this last year. So, you know, when I get together with people and we get to talk face to face, it feels so good.
Yes. I hosted a dinner party this past weekend, all outside for 30 people. And I cannot tell you the joy of that, of a meal with people that are fantastic. Oh, God, it was truly great.
But it's funny, we have different rules, because I actually threw my daughter, who just came back from 7 weeks at camp, which is cray.
Oh my!
I threw her a little pool party on Sunday in terms of returning, and you know, you have to, like, there's all sorts of different rules we have to have now. You have to make sure everybody's vaccinated. You have to make sure everybody's kind of in the circle of trust, so to speak. But it does feel so good. So we had about 20 people at our house on Sunday, and I agree with you. It's like a different world.
Oh, yes. I don't even want to ask about how you monitored all the things. I feel like it's a lot of work these days to verify and track and everything else. And actually, since you're in New York, we're taping this in August, just for everybody to know. Have they started with you got to show the vaccine card for restaurants?
That starts in about another week, I think.
Okay.
But I'm all about that. You know, I have my app from New York that it's the NYS wallet, which allows you to have your vaccination card on there. I'm going to Dave Matthews in November. I'm taking my daughter to her first concert, and you have to be vaccinated to go. I'm all about it. I'm like, let's be safe.
With the program.
Protect our community and do what's good for the world. So yes.
It's how you participate in society. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, Tam, tell us about the overview of what YouGov does for folks who don't know.
Yeah, you know, YouGov's mission is really simple. Our job is to supply a recent and continuous stream of accurate data on ultimately what the world thinks, so that organizations, our prospects, our clients, they can better serve the communities that generate growth for their business. What's special about what YouGov does is we already work with the world's most recognized brands. So our data-led offering really supports and improves the spectrum of marketing activities that the agencies, that the media owners, that the brands are all participating in. And so we have syndicated solutions, which are ultimately really game-changing for the community. We have a daily brand perception tracker that's called YouGov Brand Index. We have a media planning and segmentation tool that's called YouGov Profiles. And we also do a lot of real-time and custom research as well, so that no matter what our clients' needs are, we can meet those needs and help them. So
I love your homepage, because if you ever want to see what is being tracked right now, oh my goodness, like hearing up direction in the United States, Biden approval rating, consumer brands. People love Band-Aid apparently. Why? Okay. They like M&Ms, Jimmy Carter's a favorite, Oreo all
is just
over
at
the
the top of
place.
the list. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It is fascinating.
Our content team is amazing. And, that's kind of our special sauce. It's about recency. So every day we have a question of the day, and every day we get a huge pulse on opinions. And so we can not only, share that with the consumer marketplace, but then our B2B marketplace utilizes that data too. So it's quite special.
Yeah. Morgan Freeman, top in the list. My goodness. Wow.
Who doesn't love Morgan Freeman?
I know. He's like America's grandfather or something. Oh, man. Okay. Tam, what are you most proud of accomplishing in the last, say, 12 months?
Oh, God. Surviving the pandemic.
Yeah.
I say that because I literally fell sick in New York City on March 24th last year. And
what was it? Was it COVID?
With COVID. And I was sick and in bed for 3 months. So it's real, people, I tell you. And I'm still managing some long-term effects of that. So COVID's no joke. And I'm very proud of getting through it and trying to help our community at large understand, how we need to take care of one another.
3 months?
Yeah. 3.
Oh my.
It was crazy. And my husband's a hero because he took care of me, he took care of our daughter. He was schooling her. He was working. I really don't know how he did it all. So I need to give him more credit for that. But it was crazy. Thank God I didn't have to go to the hospital. I had an amazing team of doctors who kept plugged into me via digital assets. I had apps on my phone that would take my oxygen levels, and they really helped me stay home because that was at the beginning of things, and New York was in a scary place. So they helped me. And I thankfully didn't have the breathing issues really until after the 3 months, which was quite strange. It's just so different for everybody. It's so unpredictable. But now I'm feeling myself again. I still have some long-term effects. They come and go a little bit, unfortunately, but overall I'm feeling so much better. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm proud for getting through it because it's hard on you in all sorts of different ways. But I would say 2 other things that I'm pretty proud of is, one, keeping my family together through all of it, because I insisted we move out of the city. So we actually reside in Connecticut now, which is, commuting town.
Nice.
So we bought a new home. Our daughter started a new school.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot. And, number 3 is I onboarded a new job. So I started at YouGov last August.
Yeah,
so I've just hit my year mark, and I joke, and I somehow stayed sane through all of it. So
wow. Cheers to you.
I'm proud.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't give ourselves enough credit for the challenges we've had to tackle this year. And, I hear it from my friends. I frankly hear it from our community at YouGov. And, people have had to learn how to live differently, work differently, socialize differently.
I know.
And we've adapted. A friend and somebody who I met with for lunch today, she's like, what's kind of crazy? We're creating the new normal every day. So there is there's no old way that we used to do things. It's like every day we're creating a new normal for ourselves. And it's a pretty spectacular thing that we've managed through it.
So true. What would you say is your favorite way to now tell stories, especially when you were just asking or mentioning that you have the content team really cranking on stuff? Is it through data? Is it through surveys?
I would say, so for YouGov, it's all about us. It's our connected system. And we have 15 million panelists globally, which is insane. We have over 5 million in the Americas. And
what does a panelist mean, by the way?
A panelist means somebody who they opt in to provide their opinion. So yes. So that's why the data is so connected and so current, because we have so many people. And but we don't bombard our panels. So we have really strict regulations on when people are asked questions and when they're not, so that we keep them fresh. So we do have a great process at YouGov to ensure that we're doing that via surveys, however the customer wants to receive it. So some people want to get questions via their computer. Some people want to do it via our app. Some people want to do it just on a mobile experience. So it's however they want to participate, and it's easy. And personally, I would say my favorite way to tell a story right now is really all about self-reflection. I recently participated in a session with my executive coach, and she challenged us to tell a story about ourselves in 5 minutes, visualizing like the peaks and the valleys of our life that have gotten us where we are today. And it's funny, I hadn't gone through that specific exercise before, but as an executive, it's such a simple way to provide great perspective as well as great examples of what's really defined where you are. I tell people, use data to be on point, which on my professional side of my life, YouGov helps us do that. On a personal perspective, I'm a facilitator for self-reflection and making sure that you include that through kind of your own personal reflection that helps you kind of understand where you've been and where you're going and how you can be happy each day.
It kind of sounds like storytelling of yourself, self-storytelling, if that's a phrase, I'd say.
It is.
Ooh, I kind of
like
this.
People can blab on and on and on.
Of course.
I think that we all need to be better listeners. So the exercise that I went through with the executive coach was like, oh, that's a simple way to not ramble. And we all have moments where we learn. And if you learn something every day, you're doing something right. So it was a great exercise.
I like that. Nice. Well, we have quite a few situations, problems, Tam, to solve here. So I'm going to read off our first one here. It's kind of it's a big one. Dear BAMf, I'm the internal head of comms at my startup, and we have about 600 people now here. So not a small company at the least, but our marketing team is only 12 people only. The problem is my CMO is by default overwhelmed, can't get our PR agency the data and context they need, dumps pressing issues on the agency usually once a week, and so on. I love this agency and know they are frustrated. I'm trying to give them access and help to what they need, but our culture is very hierarchical. A lot of people here are from Microsoft and big corporate groups. Thus, I feel a bit sandwiched in what I can do. I don't want to leave because I'm very tied to the mission of what we're doing. I just don't know how to unblock the senior person so we can actually get somewhere. Worst, and I've seen this happen with her before, she'll put the blame on our external partners to likely save face. I don't want that to happen to my agency. Tam,
that's
what
tough.
do you think? Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Okay. Tell us what happened in your story or situation.
You know what? I think, so first of all, agency life is not easy. Agencies provide so much value. And so I commend, the individual who wrote in, because it's not the easiest of life, but I can tell you it's really gratifying. Like I spent 20 years agency size and I loved every moment of it, even the hard days, even the days where I felt beat down, even the days where I felt somebody wasn't listening to me. So the best advice I can tell this person is be a problem solver and bring solutions, not problems. And what I mean by that is that as somebody who's in an agency and who wants to get noticed, a lot of people are often piling it on the CEO. The CEO, I think, is the worst job in an agency. They're always hearing problems from everybody left and right, including clients. Like clients aren't easy always to manage. Take a moment by yourself or take a moment with your team. And the way to be heard is to have a pointed solution. So whether that's one idea or it's two ideas, or even like my old boss at MediaCom was great, Sasha. He's like everything in threes. So I often brought him like, here's the 3 ways I would potentially solve this. And that's how that is how you often are heard, because people elevate in that environment if they solve problems. They bring solutions to solve problems versus just complaining about the issue.
Yes. Ooh, I like the bring 3. What did you call it exactly again?
Everything in threes. So
everything in threes. I love it.
You'll joke, but I mean, we've talked before and now you're going to notice I do it, but I often talk in threes. Sasha Zabik, that's what he left on me. He was a great boss and we worked well together because I often brought him solutions. because
There
he
you
didn't want to
go.
listen to me whine. So, clients are tough, but that's what they pay for. That's what they pay their agencies for. That's how you
Exactly.
have to think about it. Cup half full.
Yes. I would add to this that, well, there are alternatives to perhaps what you are seeking. So if you can't get X and Y, then what is plan B and plan C? So this is guiding still the client, but then offering the path forward if situation A doesn't happen or if situation B doesn't happen. So it's like, oh, okay, we can't talk to your 6 international clients that are doing amazing partnerships with you and they can't disclose their name or whatever because you're cybersecurity. Okay, well, then now what can we do? Okay, can we do thought leadership? Are we going to just stick to newsjacking? Is there a board person that's better informed or something like that? You just have to come up with the alternative. So I think for this person, internally, hey, CMO, okay, great. Hey, I'm seeing that we didn't get XYZ to the agency. So the impact of that is probably going to be this. Hey, if we don't do that, it's probably going to be this. So let's help them get, in other words, kind of like meet them where they are. And this is such a classic situation. A lot of times I can tell you it's not intentional. No one's like, let me just stay overwhelmed so I cannot help you. That's not usually what people are going for. They're just drowning in the work, the commotion, the politics, it sounds like in this place. And frankly, that she might not even be aware that she's a bit in this storm. So if you can't be getting X, Y, and Z, okay, what alternatives do you have for the path forward? And since you do like this agency, maybe you could be kind of their interpreter for this and say, hey team, you know what, we're not going to get that and that. We're not. But what I can do is this. And then what can we do with this? Can we use that as a soundbite? Can we use that as a thought leadership? Can we make a white paper out of that? Can we place this? You got to work with what you're getting and what you have, even when that's significantly limited to what you would ideally, and even worse when when you're like, damn, but I know we have that juicy thing, but I can't get my hands on it or I can't access it. Okay, well, things aren't fair.
I absolutely agree with you. And often, because I know she mentioned that mentioned that, the clients are, calling with a different issue once a week. Unfortunately, client business, and I mean, I was on the client side as well. The problems are coming as quickly as either the investors or the VC itself is challenging them from a financial perspective. So unfortunately, there's a lot of pressure. And it's really about, I would say the other advice I'd have is like figuring out your best means to partnership. I think where I always succeeded with my clients was that, not only did I try to always bring them solutions, but I tried to really like talk through it with them and say like, I hear you, like be a great listener. I hear you. Let's think this through now. And how do we make this work for both you and I? And it really, like, sometimes people just need to be reminded to take a breath. That client might be getting screamed at by her boss, and it just trickles down. So
yeah, you're like the butt of it. That is common too.
Yeah. And by the way, the last thing I'll say is the grass is not always greener. Every agency has their own pile of shit. Sorry.
Yes,
and
it's totally fine. We're on a podcast.
You know what? The reality is like the grass is not always greener, and it's like, different day, same problem kind of wherever you go. So this person's motivated. They're clearly like asking for like, what's some good advice and some good solutions. So I think they'll be able to solve for this and stay where they love.
And maybe for this person, career advice wise, maybe they will be such a star and they can help navigate this and still get something out of it that then they can be kind of the hero in a sense. And
Absolutely.
Maybe that other person will leave. So sometimes that happens too.
Absolutely. And then they step right in. They're already doing
there
the job.
You go. Perfect. Exactly. All right, Tam, next question. Dear BAMf, I'm getting way more interest in submitting contributed pieces rather than bites from media interested in reporting on topics we're pitching. Does that mean that we should be dialing up our marketing efforts? I'm wondering about high investment and low ROI for PR to submit so many submitted or contributed pieces. What would you advise? So this person is talking about contributed pieces, which do take a lot of work. Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, my point of view, that's tough, but my point of view is to try to push a mix of both, because, the contributed pieces are often like the case studies that really get people excited.
True.
And I think that PR is only as good as your like most recent story, right?
That's very true.
I think having that is important, but you do have to balance the ROI, and I'm well aware of that, because you can't just be pushing things out there. You have to manage your investment and your ROI. That's a tough to do. I would say it's important that they push for what they know is right until somebody doesn't let them push anymore.
The nice thing I'd add with just this on contributed pieces is if you can get super close to the heads that be that decide on which pieces get published, then you will have much more intel into what's going to fly, because every outlet has its own parameters and word counts and this and this. And I'm not talking about you read it from their web form to submit. Like, no, who is deciding what's going on and really getting those relationships down pat, because sometimes those can frankly be easier than getting the interview or the media placement, because a lot of times outlets will be looking for contributed pieces. And if you have strong, consistent writing capability and you know exactly what they want and there doesn't need to be a bunch of edits and all that good stuff, you could really be a favorite. So for this person, I'm thinking, hey, if you can get your short list of who those outlets are and whom at those outlets are calling the shots, that can be a nice thing always in your back pocket if you're not doing so well, let's say on a media front, or there's not a lot of media opportunities to naturally pitch. So this person says, I'm worried about the high investment and low ROI, but for PR to submit so many types of things. But man, if you can get this done, now not only do you have a piece of content that's exactly in the words that you want that you can always point to, but it also counts as a placement so that you can say your work has been shown here. Worst comes to worse is you don't get it picked up, but you've got a really nice, great piece of content that can live on your blog. So you can make it into your owned instead of earned.
That was the one thing I was gonna add to that, is that, because the more examples that you have, especially when you have gotten picked up and you can showcase that, the more people are going to be interested, because then they can see what a great job and like what a great portfolio you have. So I agree with you. Even if it doesn't get picked up, having it in a place where people can read it, and maybe pushing it out even with other outlets that would pick it up that are always looking for contributors is a good idea as well.
Last one for today, Tam. Here we go. Yep. Dear BAMf, I'm debating the merit. Hey, this is perfect for you. I'm debating the merit of surveys right now with my internal comms team. We have thousands of users and could easily get more than 1,500 responses on a poll about our industry and where it's going. However, I've heard from a handful of media that surveys are just not compelling anymore for media, particularly if the participants are from your own user base. I understand that, but I am wondering about the merit of even paying a partner with a third-party group such as the Harris Poll Group. What are the Dear BAMf's thoughts on the power of surveys as a means to get media results? Do you have any good examples of where surveys have worked in health tech, to be specific?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a specific health tech off the top of my head, but I can say there's a ton of value in surveys. And this is why I'll say that. Just to the last point where I said, the most recent story is obviously the most in front and where people are thinking. Having a pulse on what the consumer thinks now is so relevant. Let's look through the COVID lens. If you were putting together a media plan a year ago and you use data that was 6 months old, like clients might not have thought twice about it. Yeah. They've been like, what's changed? A lot hasn't changed. It's fine.
Yeah.
The idea that you can have surveys and get a current pulse on what happened or what people are doing last week, understanding the way that consumption habits have changed in the light of COVID, where people are not always going to the office, people are often working from home, people are behaving differently because they're not going out as much. Like, consumption has changed so significantly that having a current pulse I think is absolutely worth every survey that you're going to put into the market, because the smarter your insights are and the smarter your data is, the more profitable the investment that you put into said media will be, and the less waste you'll have. I'll even give you a crazy consumer example. If you look at people over the age of 55, their biggest growth in media has been in streaming. And this is a consumer who is so comfortable sitting in front of their television and watching their CBS nightly news or their NBC or MSNBC or whatever it was that they were watching. And now the number one streaming channel for people over the age of 55 is YouTube, which
doesn't that
is
blow
shocking.
Your mind as a marketer? I mean, you would have just never thought that. Yeah.
So if you're in the media business, whether you're on the agency side or PR, and you're using old data to put together your media plans,
forget it.
It's wrong. So that means that you're spending somebody's money on their behalf where you're supposed to be driving the best ROI, and you're doing it inefficiently. You should want the most recent data you can get your hands on to make your decisions. So I'm pro surveys, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes. And we would assume that given where you're at and all that good stuff. What would I further add to this? You see them still all the time, frankly. And it is key, I could just say from our experience, to work with the cleanest, most neutral, most pristine knowledge of whoever you're surveying, not biased towards obviously your product, your love. So if you're an ice cream company and you're like, wow, 97% of people think ice cream is the best dessert ever. It's like, well, no shit, right? So if you work with a third neutral party, such as YouGov, that could be where you can actually get intel that could be interesting and different. And what is changing? I think that's a good point, Tam, that you're making is what is the change? Because what we think in current time about dessert preferences, well, who cares if there hasn't been much of a change for 27 years? What is the change going on? Because we're in this tumultuous time. A lot of things are upending. The census data just came out, for example. America is getting way more diverse than ever before in a record level, for instance. What does that mean? What do people think about it? How are businesses going to change from that, if at all? What does it mean from a hiring perspective, if at all? These are the types of things that usually will then get the pickup. If you're connecting survey information that is neutral, that is unbiased, to current and compelling pieces now, current time. That I think is the key that a lot of survey type of companies or ones that are talking about it miss. It's like you're surveying on something that has nothing of a connection into the current media cycle. Nothing. No one really cares about that because no one was talking about it before, and now they're definitely not talking about it when you've decided what is your ice cream flavor in February. Not the time.
Absolutely agree.
So that's kind of where I am with that. Oh, Tam, thank you for hopping on today. Those are all the questions we've got. I love your homepage. I'm going to be on this looking it around. I'm going to see where I need to look and see if Morgan Friedman stays on the top there. I just need to know. And fascinating. Thank you for all your pearls of wisdom today. It's been so great. And hopefully I get to see you in the city, in New York City, when things come back. That'd be fun.
No, can't wait. Absolutely.
I can't wait either. Thanks, Tam. Appreciate you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Dear BAMf, the advice podcast for PR and marketing pros like you. Our show was created by BAM, a PR and marketing agency headquartered in San Diego and New York City. The music you're enjoying today was composed by Tiffany Dizon, produced by Daniel Kessner, and played by San Diego Symphony's Art of Alon. If you have a tough PR and marketing question you'd like us to answer, write to us at bamtheagency.com/Dear BAMf. Don't forget the F. If you'd like to get notified of our latest episodes, subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.